Pip pip, tally ho, Joolz Guides here. Do not adjust your set, do your eyes deceive you? I am in South London. We're in Vauxhall, in the area of Nine Elms, and the reason for that is because recently Donald Trump said that the reason he didn't come to London was because he didn't want to cut the ribbon to open this new American embassy. He said the Obama administration sold the old embassy up in Grosvenor Square and he bought this place off-site, I think he described it. So I thought, why don't we come down to Nine Elms and Vauxhall to discover if it's actually, if he was right. So this is the new embassy, and it's got a moat around it. And those things, I think they're kind of solar panels. In those hedges over there, they've got bollards to stop people ramming through with a van. But there's this whole massive development going on, and I believe that two of these buildings here around Embassy Gardens are going to have a swimming pool between them up in the air. It's called the Sky Pool. It's going to have a glass bottom, so as you swim, you're going to be able to see, you know, hundreds of feet below you. I know, terrifying. Today, I'm accompanied by my good friend, Nick. Nick's your mate, Nick's your buddy. Nick's the kind of guy you want to have a drink with.
Nick doesn't mind if you throw up in his car. All right, that is the ugliest building.
Yeah, it is.
Certainly in London. It looks like just a bunch of chicken cages.
Yeah.
Not free range, isn't it? You know, it's like a nightmare. Orwellian, bruv. Yeah. Brave new Matrix, you know.
It's called St. George's Wharf and it's so ugly. I mean, yeah, I think they're residential, but also probably corporate. Yours for £8,000 a week, probably. The current embassy in Grosvenor Square in Mayfair, even though that is a really nice area, is owned by the Duke of Westminster because he's only granted them a 900-year lease. He never sells any of his land. So they said, can't we own the land? And he said, well, if you give me back all the land that was confiscated from my family during the American War of Independence, then I'll let you have this bit of land in Mayfair. And they realised that actually that meant most of New York and Maine. So he said, damn your eyes, we'll build a new one down in Nine Elms. Fair enough, I suppose.
Oh, my dancing boots are brown. They're dancing into town.
When the tide's out, you can actually see stumps and remnants of the very first bridge across the Thames. The first ever bridge across the Thames was a Bronze Age bridge from about 1500 BC. They've discovered it, they were digging recently, and it wasn't really a bridge across the Thames, it was a bridge to somewhere in the middle of the Thames because three rivers used to meet here. The Tyburn and the Effra and the Thames, they all met here, so it was a very sacred place. Even today there's a kind of connection between bridges and sacred places because they even call the Pope the Pontifex Maximus from your Latin, Nick. Do you know Pontifex from pons, meaning bridge?
Oh, okay.
Pons, pontem, pontis, ponti, ponte. Yeah. Pontifex Maximus means bridge builder. A bridge between the material world and the spiritual world. I'm not entirely sure if those stumps were actually part of it because I think it's only at the very, very low tide. And that bridge over there, here's Vauxhall Bridge, that's the first iron bridge across the Thames. Those women along the side of it, you can see they represent culture, architecture, pottery, local government, education and astronomy. Right, now this house on the left here, I think it's from the 17th century, Brunswick House. It looks very beautiful, except it's got this eyesore over the back of it, so it looks horrendous. We can go in there for dinner if you like.
Oh, nice.
Nick, yeah, if you want, I don't mind treating you to some lunch,
Don't mind.
just to make Simon jealous. It's actually a restaurant, a bar, and also it's an antique shop. It's really nice inside.
To the left, heel toe. To the right, put on your dancing boots. I'm gonna dance with you.
In fact, the name Vauxhall comes from a different house which used to exist here, belonging to Fawkes de Broat, one of the knights of King John. King John, who was on the throne at the time of Robin Hood, if indeed Robin Hood ever existed. But anyway, Fawkes de Broat, he built a hall called Vauxhall. And that's where we get the name Vauxhall from. Vauxhall Cars, one of the oldest car makers in Britain. Their emblem, which is the griffin, was actually the family coat of arms of Fawkes de Broat.
What is the name of Vauxhall cars in America?
Vauxhall in America is called Opel?
Yes.
Are they called Opel? Yeah. I knew something! Yeah, so that's Opel cars, but it used to be called Vauxhall. They're from here, folks. Yeah. Absolute crime, what they're doing here. I mean, that on its own, it would look absolutely beautiful, but it was really difficult to get a nice shot of it.
Oh, howdy, Jack, in your 10-gallon hat tonight. Howdy, Jack, in your 10...
This is Harleyford Road, but over here is my favourite thing about this street, even though opposite there is the Oval Cricket Ground. This is brilliant. These are World War II stretchers. These were used by the ARP, which is Air Raid Precautions, during World War II, because a lot of the metal had been removed from a lot of the houses and everything to be used for the war effort. And in order to make stretchers to help people who had been bombed by the Germans, terrible, bad Hun, dreadful people, the British, splendid fellows, marvellous, great, wonderful, first-class chaps, they designed these stretchers. They made 600,000 of them. And the reason why they're made out of metal is that in case of an evil gas attack, then the stretcher could be sterilised more easily. And after the war, because all the metal had been removed from all the buildings and everything, they didn't have much metal left. Using true resourcefulness, they decided to use these stretchers as railings around some of the housing estates around South London. And these ones are still in operation. Quite amazing, right?
Get your gun, I'm going fast as a bandit on the run. Woo! Come on, let's go to the hoedown.
This is the Oval Cricket Ground, and it was opened in 1845. Originally it was like an allotment for the Duchy of Cornwall, which the Duchy, I think the Duchy means the kind of estate owned by the Prince of Wales. You can buy jam and stuff from the Duchy of Cornwall. They make money out of it. Anyway, this wasn't only a cricket ground though. They also played the first ever FA Cup final here between Wanderers and Royal Engineers of Chatham or something, 1870 or something like that. It was also where the first cricket match between England and Australia took place, and England won, don't you know, with W.G. Grace, a huge man with a beard like a rhododendron bush. Somehow he managed to score 152. But 2 years later, England lost for the first time at home in a cricket match to Australia. And some journalist wrote this obituary in the newspaper saying, "In affectionate remembrance of English cricket, which died today at the Oval, the body will be cremated and the ashes taken to Australia." And then the next time when England played in Australia, the Australians burnt apart the stumps and they put the ashes inside a little urn which they gave to the England captain, and now every couple of years they compete for the ashes. Except if Australians win, we still hang on to the urn and keep it under lock and key in the long room at Lord's. It's a bit cheeky that, isn't it, really? I mean, it's outrageous. So, I mean, this street is not exactly very beautiful, but the thing is, if we just turn this corner, there's a really beautiful little square just really off the beaten track. It's called Bonnington Square Gardens. These houses were actually built for railway workers back in the 19th century, and they were going to knock them down. They were going to build a school here, and all these squatters moved in whilst there was all this thing going on, and they couldn't get rid of the squatters, and eventually they were actually allowed to buy the properties themselves, and a really beautiful, calm place. And then there's this Vauxhall City Farm. I had no idea there was a farm here, but it's so nice. I've never seen such gigantic bunny rabbits before. Really huge. Look at the size of his huge floppy ears.
Yeah, this is Vauxhall City Farm. It's been open for 40 years. It's a small charity in the middle of London. We run a number of schemes. One of the schemes is the riding school. So we teach disabled children how to ride and school children. This is Lucky.
Am I allowed on? Or is it only for
Sorry,
kids?
it's for adults as well, but Lucky's a bit small.
My legs would probably touch the floor.
Yeah.
Looks like he's looking for dinner over there, don't you think? Just opposite the Vauxhall City Farm is Spring Gardens. It used to be the Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens. This was world famous back in the 1600s. One of London's finest entertainment venues. Samuel Pepys and Samuel Johnson came here to see fireworks displays, illuminated fountains, concerts, and that building over there behind me is, of course, MI6. You might recognise it from The World Is Not Enough. It gets blown up.
That's the recent one.
Skyfall gets blown, but anyway, the thing is, it's actually bulletproof.
This is the arse of it, though. People are used to seeing the front.
Yeah, I'm going to cut to that, no.
Yeah.
Amazing
Okay.
video, 'cause I've already filmed it. You're not thinking fourth dimensionally, Marty. Actually, it's from these gardens that Russia get their word for a railway. The first railways in Russia went from St. Petersburg to a town called Pavlovsk, where they had their pleasure gardens, and they called their pleasure gardens Voxel, because they named it after the world famous English pleasure gardens here. So if you were taking a train in Russia, it was most likely you were going to visit Voxel, one of the first ever railway stations. So over time, they started to refer to all railway stations as Voxel. And so that's where the Russians get their word for a railway station. You guessed it, it closed in, I don't know, 1859 or something. Because, why do you think? Because it became a famous haunt for prostitutes and beggars, as usual, like everything else. I love this dirty town. Was Trump right? I thought it was interesting. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my films, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, and have a look at some of my other films, because there are loads on there, not only about London either. There's films about other places. And if indeed you want a guided tour of London, you can contact me on my website, joolzguides.com, where you can even leave a donation via PayPal, or become my Patreon, or even buy some amazingly tasteful Joolz Guides merchandise. Tally-ho, pip-pip, and see you next time.
Dance with you.